Hey everybody, thanks for watching the Arkansas Gun Guy. Today a close-up look at two of the most iconic firearms of all time from Sig Sauer. The P226 MK25 and the M11 A1, also commonly known as the M11 or the 228 or 229. We'll talk about why all those names exist for this guy at the end. But these are two guns that were introduced in the 80s and went into military service around the world, have a pretty storied history, and are still around today and have evolved into many great things today. So I'll kind of do a Cliff's Notes version of kind of the overview of these firearms, why they exist, how they came to be, and then look at some of the comparisons of what's the same about them and what's different, because there's one big difference that I think is really important. But in general, it all started with the 226, which is an evolution of SIG's 220 series. The 220 series was their one of their first military firearms that had the frame on the outside, had the slide on the outside of the frame. But it was a single stack magazine, chambered in 45. I think they had some 9s, and today it's even made in 10 millimeter. But it still exists today, but as a single stack. Back in 1980, they started design on the 226 as a double stack version of that. And from 1980 to 1983, design work happened in preparation for the Joint Services Small Arms Program testing that went around in 1984. Pretty famous test where I think there are 25 different firearms submitted by the top gun makers around the world, with FN, Smith & Wesson, H&K, and all those guns passed numerous tests, or had numerous tests around accuracy and reliability. And at the end of the day, it came down to two firearms to replace the storied 1911 in U.S. military history: the Beretta 92 and the SIG 226. And whether it was backroom deals or the fact that the SIG had more expensive parts and was more expensive to maintain, the Beretta was chosen as the military gun of choice for the Army, Navy, Marines, etc. And you know what? It was an honor to be even considered, and to come in second, that was a big darn deal. But what put the 226 on the map was the fact that the Navy SEALs says, we don't want the Beretta. We want what we think is the better gun, which is the 226. And with that, this legend was born. At that point in time, I would say that decision has sold more firearms from SIG than maybe anything, especially the 226. The gun's been tested, beyond measure, and it should work in sand, and water, dirt, heat. It's been pretty much battle proven over the years, and the fact that it was designed in 1980 and is still in production today and still in use today, I think speaks to the timeless quality and design of this firearm. And this one is chambered in 9 millimeter here. There are options out there for 40 Smith & Wesson, 357 SIG, and I think even a 22 long rifle. But this guy, again, is the full-size duty weapon that started it all for SIG. Then, in 1989, they wanted a smaller, more concealable version of this firearm, and they came out with the 228. And it was also adopted by militaries around the world and called the M11, not A1 yet, but it was a 228, not 229, M11. And you can see it's pretty much a copy of the 226. You have the same dust cover overhang here, which I think is very iconic and looks very smooth. I don't think the original 226s had the pick rail, and the M11 A1 does not either. Has the same takedown lever, same safety slide catch, nothing on this side for us lefties, but it also has the iconic decocker here. They're both, again, double action, single action, alloy frames, steel slide. The biggest difference I see in the design is the fact that this 226 full size has a squared off trigger guard, you can see here. Again, more for gloves and get in there and just more of a duty weapon, versus the more concealable rounded trigger design on the M11 A1. Now the M11 A1, or the 228 rather, only came in 9 millimeter. It was not designed to withstand some of the higher pressure cartridges at the time. And again, this was in 1989, this guy was designed. Around 1992, 3 years later, SIG introduced the 229. Again, the 228 was the civilian version. The M11 was the military version that shot 9 millimeter. 3 years later, in 92, SIG introduced the 229, which looked exactly the same. Same design, same decocker, same everything. However, it was designed to shoot the higher pressure cartridges, the 40 Smith & Wesson and the brand new 357 SIG. And the 229, I believe, was the first firearm to ever fire chamber to fire the 357 SIG, which is a fantastic round. I wish was still around, or was still readily available, because it's a great round. But both guns existed for a brief period of time in the early 90s through the 228 chambered in 9mm and the 229 chambered in the higher pressure cartridges. But then in 1992, or actually a few years later, SIG introduced 9mm in the 229, which meant the 228 had no reason to exist and was discontinued in 2005. So from that point on, it was all just 229s. Since then, SIG has reintroduced the M11 and tagged it the M11 A1. Again, only chambered in 9mm. I don't know that this firearm can shoot the higher pressure cartridges. You can change the barrels out in most of these firearms. I'm not going to worry about it. But it has, again, it's the M11 A1, but instead of being called a 228, it's now on SIG's website under the 229 naming convention. So that's a brief history of both firearms, designed in the 80s for military use, still used by militaries today, both fantastic firearms. So about the firearms, again, both heavy metal frames, which I love. They eat recoil, and essentially the M11 A1 is just a smaller version of the 226. The 226, has the pick rail on there, but has a very iconic dust cover overhang here. SIG light night sights, which are very easy to stay on target there. Has a takedown lever, super easy to take these guys down. The parts can be interchangeable between the same size firearms. Slide catch, slide release over here on the left side. Again, nothing for us lefties. Being a left-hander, it's still crazy how much I love this gun. But this gun, if you look at it, it's double action, single action. It has kind of a duty style trigger on there. I'm going to show you the weapon's clear, no magazine. There, we're clear. But in theory, you can put the magazine in, rack the slide, and then press the decocker and carry this firearm with one in the chamber. Instead of carrying a cocked and locked like 1911s, this is your safety, your hammer, and this big, long, heavy double action pull. There's no chance you're going to shoot yourself. So once you carry the weapon, you can draw it and fire it in double action mode just by pulling the trigger back. It's got a long, smooth, heavy double action pull. But then when the gun recycles or cycles, it's got a longer reset, but a very light take up, very light trigger for your second shots. So this is, again, a trigger that was designed for heavy duty use, and it's a good trigger, but the trigger in the M11 A1 is actually better. So as I look at these again, they're pretty much identical, except for they both have the military, scan sheet here. I've heard these can wear out. I've had this gun for several years. It's got a lot of rounds to it, as you can see, and it's never given me any trouble at all. But the biggest difference in these firearms is the M11 A1 comes with a different trigger system. It's got SIG's SRT short reset trigger system in there. So the trigger looks the same, but the reset system, maybe a bit more narrow, but the reset is the big secret there. Again, just like in the 226, I'll show you clear. You got SIG light night sights on there, but you insert the magazine, rack the slide, so you have one in the chamber, decock it, and now your safety is your thumb when you holster it. And again, that big heavy double action. You're not going to pull that on accident. Just like the 226, this guy has a very long double action pull. Feels almost identical to the 226. Very just long pull. But now the secret is that SRT system. If you remember, the 226 had a longer reset and some take up. Watch this reset. Oops, I didn't do it right. Try this again. Watch this reset. Sorry, psych. There's the reset. And then you're at the wall. Try it again. Again, the 226 had a very long reset and some take up. This guy, not so much. That was it. Don't blink, you'll miss it. Short reset, and you're at the wall. Again, one more time for a comparison. The reset. Long. Smooth. It's smooth. It's a good trigger, but you got a little bit of take up, and it breaks. Very light pull. It feels great. But this SRT system is insane. It's like laying the tactical trigger good to me. It's boom, that's it. And then you're back at the wall. So again, guns designed in the 80s, both fantastic firearms that are still relevant today, still fun to shoot today. If you have either of these firearms, I would love for you to comment below of your experience with them, as people are researching these models could, actually probably will look at your comments and use them in their research. So as always, thank you so much for watching the Arkansas Gun Guy. And again, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. It'll help me grow my little channel. Thanks.